Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and my channel is dedicated to talking about topics of how to live more sustainably in a modern world. And so today we're going to take a little walk on the modern side of that topic. Last video we talked about vintage stores and the importance of buying vintage or buying pre-owned and how that keeps clothing, especially clothing, in a closed loop cycle of being reused. Now, in a perfect world, you would buy secondhand all the time. You would buy secondhand for everything. But of course, in a modern context, that's not always possible. What if you don't find the exact thing that you really want or need that is vintage or in the style that you want? So today we're going to, again, take a walk on the modern side and talk about things that we buy new and the approach that we can try to make it as sustainable as possible. Now, I'm just going to preface this video because throughout this video, there's going to be a lot of there's things you can judge me for. A lot of things in this video that you can judge me for. It's like, there's a hypocrisy, and I've said this before in other videos, there's a hypocrisy when you're an environmentalist. You want to do your best for the environment, but you're still a human, you still have interests, you still like the modern conveniences of things. So we're just going to talk about the important points of that. The other thing I wanted to disclose ahead of time is that I've said this before also in other videos. Being environmentally friendly does not mean that you're not allowed to take up space. When you think about it, to be 100% honest, if you do every environmentally friendly thing, like if you have zero waste, you live in an all wooden world, you don't use electronics, nothing disposable, even if you do all of those things, you are living in a world where everyone else is offsetting that commitment in multiples of ways, and a lot of times it can feel very futile. And it's funny, I've seen other videos, I've seen other environmental channels, and there's inevitably always that one video that says, gosh, I just feel like I'm working so hard, I'm minimizing everything in my life, but what good is it doing? It is doing good. It is doing good, but what you have to remember is there is a balance. We have modern conveniences, we have modern new plastic things being created, and just because you purchase that does not mean that you're a hypocrite or that you're not doing your part for the environment. It just means that there's a mindset that we want to keep in, especially when it comes to consumerism and biodegradability, that if you go in with this mindset, if you do have to buy something new, you are still committing to your values and your commitments. So again, you're not supposed to be perfect. You're going to have hobbies, you're going to have habits, you're going to have technology that is not eco-friendly, and that's what this episode, this post is about. So again, get your stones ready because you're going to be able to throw a lot of them at me in this post. But to get started, last video, in the vintage video, we talked a lot about, how when you buy pre-owned, it keeps it in a loop, it keeps it in a cycle. And that's one of my 5 rules for buying, especially clothing. Clothing, we throw away and incinerate, burn 92 tons of clothes each year. In the vintage video, I talked about how my mom was a teenager of the 60s and she had disposable dresses. So like back then, it's actually been a rise in the use of polyester. In the 50s and 40s, it was a lot more organic fabrics. But then as you got into the 60s and 70s, we got all futuristic with it. We didn't think we were doing any damage. But, nylon, polyester, elastics, all of this they're chemically made materials. When they touch your skin, they're affecting your skin. Even if you don't feel it when you're young, when you're older, your body is fighting off the chemicals in that material, and it doesn't biodegrade. It doesn't biodegrade. And there are levels of polyester. I know I'm very anti-polyester and acrylic. There are levels of polyester. There's more quality polyester, and then there's lower quality polyester, but all polyester is polyurethane and petroleum. And if you've heard of the gas stations, when you hear petroleum, that's gas. You're using a fossil fuel to create materials and treating it like it's one-time use. It's not a plastic fork. We shouldn't be throwing away plastic forks like that either, because we're looking at a finite resource. So basically, when you look at buying polyester or any synthetic fabric, the end life of that is going to be going a long time. And we're going to see it in this video exactly. We're going to see a real world example of what that looks like. But it's not all gloom and doom, though. But what I do is, with my eco rules, there was an article that I saw from Harpers Bazaar that talked about 5 ways to shop more sustainably. And I'll try to find it and post it in the link below. But the 5 way that you shop more sustainably, especially for clothes, is that you want to, first off, avoid buying on impulse. When we're in a very digital world. We're in a digital world. And believe me, guys, I've seen it. You know, you can have digital vision boards. You know, there's apps. There's you know, every technology, you know, my little niece at Christmas just pulled out an iPad and was starting to pull images, and all of these sales sites cater to that. They will show you the pretty pictures. They will show you how it looks on the model. It's all polyester, it's all acrylic, it's all cheaply made, and that's how they sell to you. So buying on impulse is a strong one. You got to kind of, I'm not saying completely resist it, and this video talks about that with the things I do cave and buy. But what you want to do is think about, okay, you know, if you're being a detective, right, you're pulling all these pretty pictures to do the trends, to do the mermaid core, to do the cottage core, to do the, you know, the Wednesday, you know, dark sheer. If you're pulling, you know, these boards or creating these boards, look at the materials that's made of. So, you know, the first rule is avoid buying on impulse. Try not to add to cart and just think that, oh, okay, I can throw it away or return it. We want to avoid anything unnecessary being made in the first place. That's our goal. Now, the second thing is you want to avoid buying duplicates of things. Now, I'm going to go ahead and define that there's been confusion between the term duplicate and knockoff. And I know defining things is very old lady of me and very trite, but I do have to define it just because, just like when I talked about popping tags, looking at tags, there's a different meaning, and there's a few definitions out there in the real world that we need to clarify. Clarification is good. Now, duplicate in today's world, when you look on Instagram, a duplicate can be defined as a knockoff. Like you have the high-priced, fashion version of something, and then you have a duplicate. So it's the knockoff version. I'm not saying to avoid duplicates as in a knockoff. If you find something that is quality made, that is imitating a fashion trend, go for it. If it's quality made and you think that it'll, you know, and later on in this video, look at the rules for buying new. If you feel like it's you know, a buy new thing and it's an imitation, a duplicate of a fashion trend, that's okay. But in my head, when I hear duplicate, I think, when I hear knockoff, I think, okay, it's an imitation, like what is it? Again, Lonnie Ozark did a video that talked about the difference between duplicates and knockoffs. She talked about how UGG boots came out and they're the original, copyright, but then a bunch of other companies did imitation, duplicate, versions of the boot, and they called them fugs, fake Uggs. But what I'm thinking is that's a knockoff. A knockoff is an imitation. Duplicate, in my mind, is buying the same thing over and over and over again. And the way duplicates happen in my head is that, okay, say you need, when you're looking at your closet, you have, what you really ideally want is 80% staples and 20% fashion statement pieces. And this is actually a proven thing, the 80-20 rule. And I'll try to find a video to post below that talks about this too. When you have staples in your closet, when you have garments that you can interchange or mix and match, and they can be mixed and matched, each day, that is ideal. That is ideal. You wear 20% 20% of your closet 80% of the time. But if your closet is 80% staples and only 20% statement pieces, and this will make more sense in a minute, then you're going to get more wear out of it. And that's the way that you want to go to be sustainable. Now, where duplicates happen, and duplicates in my head, is buying the same thing over and over and over again. And that ties into impulse, because what you're doing is saying, oh, well, I know someone who loves khaki shorts, and she has 12 pairs of khaki shorts. She keeps buying it over and over and over and over and over again. And that's part of the selling culture problem, is you're handing over your money probably cheaply for polyester things that don't biodegrade, and you're ending up with multiples of things. So maybe in my head, duplicate means multiple. You tell me. I'm sorry. There's a lot of definitions out there. But another reason duplicates happen isn't so much, half of it is impulse, because you liked it, you saw it, you put it in the cart, and then maybe you can't find your other pair, so you buy it again. But one other thing that happens a lot is that we have, between influencers and fashion trends and media and television shows, we have 52 micro trends going on every year. That's really fast. That's fast. And that's actually how fast fashion gets its steam, is that every week something else is more fashionable. And the problem is that a lot of this is getting trendy to the point where it's not a staple. A staple, and again, not to be boring, but would be your just plain white button up, or your cotton white t-shirt, no logos. You can pair that with a statement jacket, or you can pair that with your regular jeans. It's a staple. It's something that you can wear that is part of your main wardrobe. Now, where we get into left field with duplicates or with multiples is that you might see a white shirt that has cut off shoulders, or drawstrings, or eyelet lace, or I actually, in last video, I showed a white top that I have that has a back that kind of opens up. When I lift my arms, it exposes my lower back. That's not a top that I can wear to work. So, but that's also a top that I would need to integrate and make part of my 80% of my wardrobe. So, when you're buying on impulse and you're saying, oh, that's a cute top and I like white tops, and you're getting this, but then it becomes something that you can't wear because of the way that it is. The other thing is that trends change so fast. Like, I'll throw out an example right now. The flare leg with the slit in front is popular, and the puddle pants is popular. In 3 weeks or in 2 months, when that trend goes out of style and you have those pants and you're wearing those pants and everyone's looking at you like, oh, that was so 3 seasons ago, those pants are now useless to you. You are either going to throw them away or you're going to donate them. And the problem with donating is the donation is a problem too, because when you give to Goodwill or other places, only 8% of that actually goes back out onto the floor. The rest of it goes into a landfill because it can't be sold and they only have so much floor space. So I know we think that we're doing good by giving it. But basically, when these are impulse buys and they're not staples, and when I say avoid duplicates, I mean avoid multiples. When you are looking at a shirt and saying, okay, there's so many environmentalists out there always say, do I need another plain white t-shirt? Do I need another t-shirt, period? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself before you buy anything new. The other thing is that you want to invest in quality pieces that you're actually going to wear. In the vintage video last week, I showed you this beautiful, called it Disco Cleopatra jumpsuit. And it's gorgeous, and it's very, Studio 54, it's very disco, which is a trend. But I have to ask myself, am I going to wear that to the grocery store? There's an article out there on the internet that talks about this lady who wants to wear, she wears her wedding dress to the grocery store because she's like, how many times, how much money I spent on this thing, I got to wear it more. So, and also in my fast fashion video, I talked about how there was a trend for aviator stuff. And there was this aviator jumpsuit that had really wide shoulders, which would be great for my body type, very flattering. But it was trendy. Again, it looked almost like the Disco Cleopatra. How would I wear that to the grocery store? The other thing is that, it did look a little bit, once it gets out of style, it's going to look a little dated. I like the 80s, but I don't want to look like a V, right? But so when you're buying new, the impulse of it, oh, well, it's in style, let me buy it. This is what you got to monitor. This also ties into the 30 wears rule, which is another one that I commit to. If you buy something, commit to the idea, okay, I'm going to wear this 30 times or more. So, if it's clothing, I look at the tag and I say, okay, is this biodegradable fabrics? Is it cotton, linen, silk, hemp, or wool? Things, 100% of those fabrics. If it is a different fabric, I want it to be very low in polyester, no acrylic. And I have to look at the style of it. I have to say, okay, do I just want this or do I need this? Can I wear this 30 times? Now, Alyssa Beltempo, who I mentioned a lot in the vintage video as well, has a great tip for that as well. And I'll post the video below, but she talks a lot about, if you take the value, if you pay more for a garment, if you wear it at least 30 times, because right now the average that people wear their clothes is 7 times. And unfortunately with the younger generations, it's a lot less than that. It's like 1 time and they'll throw it away. And that's because if it's cheaply made and it doesn't fit right, because it's one of these fast fashions pieces of crap, you're only going to wear it once and throw it away. It's not those disposable dresses. We don't want to take that mindset. If you look at it, just like, so one of the 3 rules is that for, if you're going to buy new, is look at it and say, okay, how versatile is this piece? Is it just following a trend, or can I actually, mix and match it with other pieces that are already in my wardrobe? And ideally, maybe if the elements, and we'll see in a minute, if the elements match with several different trends, it can be used more because it's versatile that way. And then Alyssa Beltempo mentioned, if you take the cost of that higher priced garment and divide it by the number of times you've actually worn it. Now, our goal is to wear it at least 30 times. What if you wear that garment just about every single day? If that's that favorite pair of jeans that you wear 3 times a week, divide that, the higher price tag that you paid, divide by the time you actually wear it. Kind of think of it that way. Okay, if I were renting my clothes and each day, that you see those videos that talk about for less than a price of a cup of coffee, if it boils down to being less than $1 a day for how much you wear that quality garment, it's going to be worth buying new. And then the last thing is that, when you think about it, think, okay, am I going to wear this 30 times? Is this trendy, or is this actually a staple? Is it something that I can mix and match because it has enough elements? It's not just one trendy thing. It's not just flared pants with a slit in the front. I can actually wear it, it covers several things. And then the last thing is that, is it a biodegradable fabric? Am I really going to wear this? Is it something I could wear to the grocery store? Or is it just going to be sitting at the back of the closet for kind of special occasions or, special themes? That's the other thing. So this is what you think about when you go in. The last thing also in that same line of thinking is that, if the last thing that you can ask yourself when you're buying new is, just like you went to that vintage store and, I bought a vintage, when I went to the vintage store, I got this beautiful leather skirt. And, when I am going to, it's bought secondhand, so I'm giving it a new life and I intend on wearing it 30 times or much more than that. But the question you can ask yourself if you're buying something new is, if I buy something new in 30 years, would this be something that would go into a vintage shop? Would your grandchildren go into a vintage shop and go, oh, wow, I want to buy that, Because what you buy new now is you either have to wear it out till it falls off your body, or you have to think of it that way. Is it a high enough quality piece that in 30 years from now, it could go into a vintage store? So those are kind of some of the rules, and I'll list them below because I know it's quite a bit. But basically, you want to ask, does it biodegrade? Am I buying it on impulse? Is it just a replica? Am I getting multiples of something? Is it really a staple? Can you wear it 30 times? And is it a quality piece? Is it something that would stand the test of time? So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into, and I know we're a few minutes in, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the new stuff. So taking that all into consideration, okay, when I went to the vintage store, I loved that jumpsuit, right? And I like jumpsuits. But what you could do to make it more modern is when I go to the store, and I do like some of the higher Main Street store. I really like Anthropologie. And I know Anthropologie, if you look on Good On You, if you look them up, they get a lot of their clothes mass produced the same way a lot of companies mass produce their clothes. The other thing is that, the other thing to bear in mind is that when you're buying new, it's like you can't buy everything vintage. You can't, I hate to say it, you can't stick it to the man like that, like I can't completely cut out buying new things because that's economy, right? You do want to put your buying dollar towards supporting those stores, and I'm happy to give my money to Anthropologie. They do have several lines. They do sell a lot of polyester things, but then they also sell a lot of their Pilcrow and their Maeve line. They do have a lot of 100% cotton, not always organic, but they do have things that are pieces like that. And anywhere you go, you can find stuff like that, and I know it's tough because you want to go to the 100% organic places, but what I did is I actually wore the vintage leather skirt into Anthropologie, and I said, okay, let me try to find, just shopping, if I were going to buy something new. Now, the thing to keep in mind is what's a trend and what's a staple. So again, we talked about that before. If you go in and buy something new, is it just trendy? Another really good fashion poster here on fashion channel is what is it? It's Anne. I'll put her name up on the screen, and Anna Reid. And again, I've mentioned before, it's overstimulating with all these little micro trends, but she did a spring video, and it's funny when you watch these videos, it seems like everyone's talking really fast. They're like, and this is in, and I'm not dragging it because it's overstimulating, but she was talking about how florals, and it's florals for spring, groundbreaking, right? If you've ever seen Devil Wears Prada, but she talked about how the florals in the past were bigger florals, and now the trend is, and again, we split hairs like this, right? We split pants like this, that the florals are smaller. So if you're seen wearing the big florals, you might be seen as out of date, but if you're wearing the smaller florals, that is in for spring. I know, it's ridiculous, but I'm not knocking it, she's right. But I went into Anthropologie and I thought, okay, I liked the Disco Cleopatra jumpsuit, and I liked, what could I find that would be versatile? And what I was thinking, and Alyssa Beltempo said this too, instead of having one jumpsuit, maybe you can have elevated separates. Like you can have a pair of pants that look kind of like jumpsuit-esque, but that you can mix and change, and that would be a staple, right? You're kind of taking off a little, wearing off, rubbing off a little of that trend and making it more of a staple because it's a separate. The other thing I can do is if I really like those wings, because I really liked the wings of the jumpsuit. There are bat wings, 80s and 70s are very popular now. And when I went into Anthropologie, I did find a beautiful floral top that was 100% cotton, that had the bat wings, that was a button down, that actually went with that vintage leather skirt and looked really beautiful. Now, one other rule that I follow is that if I'm going to spend more than $30, I will sleep on it, right? And I like to go into the store and try things on. And I know that's hard to do in a digital age. That's part of the buying on impulse that we get. We think, oh, I'll just add to cart, and if I don't like it, I'll mail it back. Think of how much gas and packaging and trash that makes. Go into the store. Whenever possible, go into the store. That helps a whole lot. The other thing is that I know my color chart and I know my body shape. I'm pear-shaped, so if I broaden my shoulders, that makes an hourglass. That's very flattering. Those wings emphasize, when it's a separate instead of a jumpsuit, it emphasizes my waist. It looks very flattering. The only thing was, it was small florals, keeping in trend, but the color palette wasn't quite me. It was a little bit more earthy, and you can see I wear brighter colors, and neutral tones, jewel tones look better on me. So I didn't buy the shirt. I didn't buy the shirt. I walked out of the store, but it was a great shopping experience. Now, one shirt that I did buy from Anthropologie, this was bought new, and this was bought new like a year ago, is that I had seen a lot of those puff sleeves. A couple seasons ago, puff sleeves was huge, very princessy, very Bridgerton. And I saw a sweater that had more of a square front. It tapered at the waist. And guys, it had India lace. It had multicolored patchwork India lace on the sleeves. And when I held my arm out, it did do that puff sleeve that I apparently like so much, because you can see I'm buying the same thing. I'm looking at shirts that have that bat wing on it, right? And I bought that sweater last year, and I purchased it. It was more expensive, but I bought that new. Now, the other thing, it was not 100% cotton. I slept on it. I actually waited a week before I went back and got it, but it wasn't 100% cotton. It's 86% cotton, 12% polyester, high quality polyester, and 2% rayon. Now that really pinched me, because of course I'm about buying 100%, but it's a quality garment though. I could see that sweater when if you ever pry it away from me, because I love it. If I ever gave that sweater up 30 years from now, you would see that hanging in a vintage shop, and someone would be eager to buy it. The other thing is that it covers a lot of bases. It's a sweater that has it breathes better, so it would be a good transitional piece for fall or spring. The other thing is that it's got kind of a beige pink, so you can wear it on Valentine's Day. The other thing is that it's got the puff sleeves, which is very feminine. And when my arms are down, it's not as noticeable, so it doesn't look as in-your-face trendy. But I did spend over $100 on it more than a year ago. I've worn it 17 times. So in less than a year, I am halfway to the 30 mark, and I have no intention of giving it up. The other thing is I don't need another puff sleeve. I didn't go with the floral shirt because my sweater fills the void. It's perfect, but it's new, and I gave my buying dollar to Anthropologie. So you're buying new, and it's adhering to all those rules. It's a quality piece. It's mostly cotton. The polyester in it is new, but it's better quality. I'm gonna wear it more than 30 times, and if I ever do part with it, I could either sell it, or if I did give it to a vintage store, it would probably sell again. Now, when you fall in love with something like that, when you fall in love with something so good and quality like that, even if it is new polyester, that's kind of the way you want to go when you're buying new. Now, the next thing that we're going to kind of get into is shoes. Just like we talk about clothes being really mass-produced, shoes are a big one. And I'm gonna go out on a limb, and again, you can call me a hypocrite. I'm gonna call out my sneakerheads out there. If you love your Air Force Ones, if you love your Yeezys, if you've got your Adidas Sambas in 4 different colors, this is what we're gonna talk about. Now, shoes is a big one. Now, I wear my shoes out to death. I have to admit, I have like 3 staple pieces of shoes, but just about all the pairs of my shoes I've had for 15 plus years. So when I do invest in shoes, I have the same number of pairs. I have boots, and I have, booties, and, I probably have about 12 pairs of shoes, but 10 of those 12 are more than 15 years old, and I still wear them. Now, one thing what I do is I try to avoid duplicates with that too, because one big thing with consumerism is becoming a collector with it. and we'll talk about this more in a minute, but shoes are a big collector's item. It's like they're almost a piece of art, because you look at it and you think, oh, okay, that's too pretty to wear, or those are my vintage, Air Force Ones. How can I wear them out in public? I don't want to get them scuffed. The other thing I keep seeing is the trend of fresh white shoes, and you buy it once and wear it once because you're going to get that dirty, right? But when it comes to shoes, and I'm not knocking anyone, last year, right before Christmas, I fell in love with a pair of Converse. Now, Converse is mass produced. When you think about, the first thing you think about is, God, why am I giving my buying dollar? I'm an environmentalist. Why am I giving my buying dollar to a company that produces, and I think they do produce, like, I'll put the statistic on the screen, about 250,000 pairs a day. It's into the millions per year of how many of these shoes. And when you go to their website, they've got tons of different ones. I mean, believe me, I saw the Woodstock Charlie Brown ones. I really wanted those, but they sold out, But that is new production of shoes. And you imagine, that production of shoes is just Converse. Could you imagine Adidas, which are really taking off? Everyone's got a pair of Sambas right now. And then, the more expensive shoes too. And you talk about labor too. People aren't getting paid a living wage. So when I saw a pair of Converse that were pretty suede mauve color, like it's a purplish pink color, I really, really liked them. And I saw them and I kept thinking I shouldn't do it, and that I'm like that. I'll wait a week. I waited a month, and I was like, and I kept going back to it. I was like, I really like those. But I'm like, okay, what kind of, and here, judge me, I went and bought them. But what I've worn them about 5 times. They are a lighter color, so just like the white sneakers, I had to be careful with them. The other thing that I do is, so my intention is I'm going to wear them until they fall off my feet is what I'm going to do. If I buy them new, I'm putting my buying dollar into something new. There's plenty of sneaker companies out there that make things biodegradable. Like there's one company called Karuma. And I have a pair of Babooks, which are natural rubber, natural wood shoes, but, or natural wool shoes, but Converse is none of that. The other thing is when I bought them, I even had family members. I had my brother-in-law go, oh, those are suede. If you want to keep them clean, get that spray that resists, stains. Environmentalist, no. I bought mauve high tops. I bought them new. I'm not putting any chemicals on them. None. I'm not buying that spray. The other thing is those sprays that resist water, waterproofing on furniture, on pillows, on raincoats, and that spray that you can put on suede. Those are PFAS chemicals. They're the forever chemicals. They get into water, they don't come back out. And you can Google it. Terrible for the environment. So yes, I bought the suede shoes. I will never ever treat them with any chemical sprays. If it gets a stain, it gets a stain. I will try to get it out. And actually, it's funny, I have 2 pairs of high quality jeans that I've worn those shoes with, and there was no transfer. But then when I wore my dark wash Levi's jeans, I saw a little blue spot start to rub off onto the shoe. So this is going to be a topic for a future video about dyes. Because if it's rubbing off on suede, what do you think it's doing to your skin, and what's in that dye? But that's the second thing that I bought new in the last years. I bought, mainstream mass-produced shoes. And I do love those shoes. They're very comfortable. I can walk in them. Now, there is a little bit of a convenience factor because you have to lace them up. So I don't, in a minute, you're going to see a pair of boots that I've worn more than 365 times. And that's because I can slip them on and zip them up and go, but I'm an environmentalist. I wanted those shoes. I bought those shoes. And they're the only pair of high tops, so I don't have duplicates. So the other environmentalist thing to think of is, do I really need this in every single color? And if you're starting a collection of shoes, is it because you're really collecting it, because you intend on selling it later, or do you really intend on wearing them? Because collections become a huge thing. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is that I bought new is, this is going to be the second definition in this video, so judge me on that one too, because we have to define it, is kitschy stuff. Kitchy Stuff. Kitchy Stuff is considered, when something's kitsch, it's that really kind of bright, I almost think of it almost kind of like 60s with the starburst clocks and stuff. It's the real kind of in-your-face, kind of poppy, kind of, it's almost borderline gaudy, but it's trendy in that kind of interesting way. It is almost like, the Campbell's soup can kind of art. It's very, it's cutesy, but not environmentally friendly. Now, when you go out to stores, kitschy stuff gets thrown at you all the time. And I went to the restaurant, the Cracker Barrel, and they have a gift shop, right? And that is all unbiodegradable stuff. It's all just shipped in from other countries, and they want you to shop, and it is. I saw a pair, and again, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. I saw a pair of salt and pepper shakers that were in the shape of llamas. And oh my gosh, guys, I I had to have it. I bought the Love Llamas. I caved and bought the Love Llamas. And I've had them on my shelf for several years now. They sit, kissing each other next to my perfumes. But that is not biodegradable. I would never really put salt or pepper in it because I do think I think it's the bad kind of ceramic. I don't think you really want any food touching it, even if it's just condiments, even if it's just salt and pepper. Salt can have an erosive effect, so you don't want the ceramic melting off and getting in your food. But as a decoration, that's what I bought. And it's totally kitsch, and I wanted it, and I bought it. But I've had that for about 6 years now, and it's not a decoration, it's a permanent, knick-knack. And I know knick-knacks are bad for the environment too, but I love them, and I smile when I see them. And I would never think about selling them, I'm going to have one heck of a estate sale if anything ever happens to me. So, but in the same line of kitsch, when you talk about kitsch, a lot of accessories get very kitschy too, earrings and, necklaces and watches. One huge kitschy watch, and you saw in the last video in vintage, I talked about how I bought a vintage Swatch. I have a Swatch that's from 1987. In addition to the vintage Swatch, I have 3 new ones. Now, 2 of the new ones I actually bought myself, but one of them was given as a Christmas gift. And they are totally kitschy. Like just the other day, I was on Facebook and I saw Swatch advertisements with hearts on it because it's Valentine's Day, right? So they sell you on it. And the thing is about Swatch is just like in the 80s, it's like a little piece of art. It's not a high quality watch. You see CEOs do wear them. It's like watches aren't even needed anymore. You can get, you can look at your phone and get the time off that. But, the Patek, the Philippe Patek or the Omega, those are such a sign of affluence. But then you have Gen Z CEOs who remember Swatch and they're like, no, heck no, I'm going to wear a Swatch. So that's the appeal. Now, swatches they're not biodegradable and they're not recyclable, but they are resellable though. Just like I bought my 1987 watch, and I was kind of in a bidding war for that watch too. I was not the only bidder. It was popular. So if you do get the one Swatch 30 years from now, if it's still working, it could be a selling item, right? Now, the other thing about Swatches is that they do have a new line that is joint with, I think, Omega. It's a big watch company that the bands of them are bioceramic. So they have looked at materials for how their watches are made. Now, it is a little bit of greenwashing. I don't think it's 100% biodegradable, but it's nice that they have addressed that in some way. And then the other thing is that, a lot of these watches can be limited edition. Like the watches that were Keith Haring from the 80s, those are worth thousands of dollars. The watch that I got for Christmas was from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it was Starry Night. And I love that watch. Now, the last one that I'm wearing right now was purchased about 1.5 years ago. and you can see it's you know, I think it's called Red Tide, but I wear it with a lot of things, and I do use it. I'm a watch wearer. I don't always have my phone with me, but that is something that I've bought new. That is something that is kitschy. It's 80s, but I buy it new. I buy it with the idea that it would be worth something someday, and if I ever did need to pass it on, that it would retain its resale value. Now, speaking of resale value, we're going to go into the next thing, and this ties into accessories. We're going to talk about purses. Purses are a big deal, because if you do get a knockoff purse, or, you know, there's so many high quality purses, and just like department stores, there's a gradient. You know, if you get a Chanel purse, if you get, you know, a Hermes, you know, that is high top quality leather. You know, Christian Dior's saddle bag, you try to go on eBay, that resale value is in excess of $3,000. Now, to bring it on to a more regular scale, I'm going to talk about Coach. Coach bags retain their value very, very well. Now, where it gets into a little bit of a differential, and we're going to talk about it, and it's interesting. Coach factory or Coach outlet is literally the knockoff of their own brand. They capitalized on people trying to make duplicates or trying to make knockoffs of their bags. And they said, okay, instead of buying the knockoff from someone who's replicating us, buy it from us. But the thing with Coach outlet or Coach factory or Coach outlet is that it is still Coach, but it's lower quality materials. And you can kind of see that, you know, you can kind of pick out those bags. Oh, I can see this was one of their outlet bags, because it's not the same top quality leather, but it is still Coach quality. Now, if you do actually buy the Coach bag, like either from the store, especially when they get into their collaborations and stuff like that, that is high quality. It's not going to be as top grain of leather as, you know, Christian Dior or, you know, or Coach or Chanel, but it does retain its value very well. You can resell a bag if you wear it after a couple years and decide, okay, I'm not into this style anymore. If you go on eBay, it's likely that you will get at least 50 or 60% of what you originally paid for it back. And again, if someone buys something from you, that's not going into a landfill. When have you ever thrown away something that you paid $300 for on eBay? You know, you must have really wanted it. So that is something that I bought in the last year. I have bought, in the last 5 years, I've bought 2 Coach purses new. This last year, they had a collection with Mint and Surf. And Mint and Surf is a duo of artists. They're graffiti artists from New York City. And they did a line with Coach. And I really, really liked the Bandit bag. I liked it. And just like the sweater, I was like, I couldn't get it off my mind. I kept thinking, okay, I don't need another Coach bag. And when I do buy Coach, I usually buy it vintage off eBay. Like I have a lot of their original leather from the 80s and 90s is really top quality. So most of my Coach bags have already been purchased and I've kept them for years. But this new one I really liked. The other thing is the smaller version of the bag, they had different sizes. The smallest version of the bag was less expensive, and I waited to the very last minute until it was on sale, and then I did the 4 payment plan to pay it off. But it has pockets for everything I need. It has the beautiful graffiti on it. I really like it. It goes, and it's nice because it has kind of browns and blacks and blues in it. It goes with my phone case, which is Pella, which is recycled, biodegradable cover. And the other thing I really like about it is it's high quality leather. It's very durable. And the strap of it has 2 loops in it where I can have it on the short. I can double it up and it can be a short handle on my shoulder. Or when I need it to be long, I can grab one side of it and it'll extend automatically, where it can become a crossbody. I can just throw it over my shoulder. And guys, I bought it at the beginning of January and I've used it every single day for the last 2 months. it really has become like my favorite bag. Now, again, I probably will trade it out, but the use per wear is crazy. And if you go online and Google it, its value is still really high. Now, of course, as it goes along, the value might go down a little bit, but just like the vintage store theory, in 30 years, that's going to be a rare collector bag. Now, the other thing with Coach that I really kind of like is that, first off, you can buy them very easily on eBay or Mercari or Poshmark. You can buy them used and get the ones from the past. The other thing that I love about that is Coach does have a system called Reloved. They acquire previously owned bags, they clean them up and refurbish them, and then sell them again. Now, the Relove collection is expensive. They mark it up because it is a vintage. It's a one-of-a-kind bag. The other thing is, once it's sold, you can't get it, because it's like buying off eBay. You buy it and it's gone. But the nice thing about that is that with the Reloved, if you do like the mint and surf, there's a little button that says alert me when this comes back in stock. So if they do get one of those bags returned or turned back in and it goes under the Reloved program, it'll get cleaned up, refurbished, and you can buy it again. So, and also Coach is very good. If you go into one of their stores, they will clean the leather for you. If one of the hardware breaks, you can pay to have it replaced. And that goes into exactly everything we're talking about. The pieces that you buy, you maintain them, you keep them, you wear them, you love them. It's like art for your body. In the future, it's a quality piece that has value. It's not a cheap bag that you're just going to throw away the moment it gets worn out or that you don't like the style anymore. So that's what we want to go for. When you buy new, that's what you want to do. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about... We talked about collections and what that means, but there was a reason that I posted this video a couple days before Valentine's Day. And I remember a couple years ago, I'm very close to, I love getting coffee, and I get to know my baristas, my coffee shop people very closely. And there was a great coffee shop at my local Wegmans grocery store. And my coffee person is so sweet. And she goes, I went in the week before Valentine's Day, and she goes, by this time next week, it's going to look like Valentine's Day. Threw up all over the lobby. And she's absolutely right. When I bet you in the last 2 weeks, if you've walked into any store, you have seen aisles upon aisles of plushies and candies and cards and plastic. And, I remember years ago, I went into the grocery store, and I love record music. And I saw a little monkey. And he had, it said on his hand, on his little paw, it said press here. And I pressed here, and he started to sing Love by Nat King Cole. Like, L is for the way you look at me. O is every other one I see. And I was like, oh my God, it's a love monkey. It's a love monkey that plays music. And it is plush, and it is polyester. It is filled with autofill. It has a little music box inside of it that probably doesn't biodegrade. And then years after that, I saw two octopi, two little octopi, and same thing, they didn't play music, but they're covered in polyester. They're filled with polyfield. They don't biodegrade. And look at how much it does. It looks like Valentine's Day threw up all over the lobby, right? So, I have walked on by these plush animals every year, because just like everything we've talked about, the high tops, the sweater, the purse, you got to really love it. It's almost like you have to get hit by Cupid's arrow and know it has to be a high quality piece. You have to use it 30 times. So when Valentine's Day runs around, it's a Hallmark holiday, and we're buying all these little plushies to show our love, right? But what happens to that plushie the day after Valentine's Day? It's a theme. It's got a little heart on it. When are you gonna leave it around? Are you gonna use it? The environmental brain kind of balks at that. And, you saw with the salt and pepper shakers, I'm a sucker for a good Love Llama too. And, last year I walked into a grocery store, Harris Teeter, and the very first aisle had a humongous Love Llama. Guys, oh my God, I had to walk past. I was like, I don't need a Love Llama. Don't need a Love Llama, right? So I have been so good. I have been adhering, like, okay, what am I going to do with a 5-foot llama for the rest of the year? I can't buy it. But it does. It feels all warm and squishy, feels all warm and squishy. So here's where, get your stones ready. This is where the hypocrisy begins, is that for all of my walking past plush animals, yes, guys, this is a squishmallow. It is a new squishmallow. His name is Marcellus. They have names and tags and stories. And anyone who has lived through the 90s can attest that this plays right into the collection theory. Squishmallows and every other stuffed animal that has come out every 10 years are the beanie babies of our generation. It was made popular by a TikTok trend. Someone did a TikTok about squishes and they became the hot thing. And what happens is you got to have them all, right? Oh, well, I don't have the rare axolotl. I don't have the rare this. I don't have the rare that. But what happens is you're buying something that doesn't biodegrade, that's going to be around for a long, 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 long time. Using materials that aren't good for you. So you got to think about, okay, how do I use this? I use this guy as a Valentine's decoration. He is actually a year old. His little blooms are hearts. Yes, very cute. How you doing? Right. But he's very soft, and he is new, and he's not the biggest squishmallow, but he's not the only squishmallow I have. So yes, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to pause a moment. Go ahead, judge me. She's an environmentalist, but she has squishmallows. How dare you? Let me tell you how this began. I have a little niece. I also have a god niece, my best friend's little one, who is 3. And when it comes to stuff like that, you are not going to get away from the plushie trends, right? Like in the early aughts, you had the Zoom Zooms, the little stackable plushies. And then in the 90s, I'm going to show you in a minute, there was another trend of I'll put the name up on the screen, of plushies then. And then, of course, you had the Beanie Babies. And Lord help you if you have Peanut the elephant, because everybody collected all of them. The purpose with plushies is you got to get the ones that you actually care for and love. Just like we're talking about everything else here, the sweater that has value. And it's not just because it's, the Princess Diana bear or whatever, or it's the rare axolotl. It's got to be the one that you like. It's got to be the one that you love. I like llamas and I like cacti, and I like the octopi. I really wanted that plush octopi, but I walked on by. And my little niece collects squishmallows. Again, modern world. That's her generation. She collects them. And she knew that I had walked past plushes of octopi in the past. Now, one thing that she does do, and that I'm proud of her for, because this is a modern world. Again, it's not that you're not allowed to take up space. Let me put it in this context, just super quick. I don't use plastic shampoo. I have bar shampoo. I have bar conditioner. I use aloe on my face. I have silicone bags that I use that recycled, and at their end life, they can get sent back to the maker. I don't use aluminum, I don't use bottled laundry detergent. I haven't had a one-use disposable water bottle, and you can watch my water video. I haven't used one of those in 15 years. The last time I had one of those was last year, and I couldn't help it because I was at a public event and it was handed to me. For all the ways that I do not use plastic and I don't put things back in the cycle, this is the one thing that is modern that I like, because I like that cactus. Now, what happened was, one thing that I'm proud of, and again, I don't judge anyone, that's your world. You know, I try to educate and let you make your own decisions. But my niece likes to trade and squish, and she sells squish and she buys it new most of the time. But what had happened is she had gone to a swap event, and swap events are very green. You know, you can do swap events for trading clothes and for trading things. That's a good way to go. She went to a trade event for Squishmallows, and there at that trade event, a squish got left out. She did a trade with someone and she said, oh, here, since you're giving me this, you can have a free squish. So they did the trade and she got a free squish out of the deal. The free squish that she got was an octopus. I don't know her name because she does not have a tag. I think it's Olga, and she's very cute. She's almost like a stress relief animal. I like petting the tentacles. I know, judge me. She even has little glitter, and she's got hearts, and she's got little glitter. Yes, I have an octopi squishmallow that has microplastics on her tummy. How can I call myself an environmentalist? But this was the free trade squish that my niece got, and she gave to me because she's like, do you want this? It doesn't have a tag. It's the one that no one wanted. And so because it doesn't have a tag and it's kind of, again, like in a Beanie Baby world, this would be the one that, you know, no one cares about, no one wants. If I just hand this over, it could get sold or it could go into a landfill. So I went ahead and kept it because I like octopi, even though it has microplastics on its tummy. I think her name is Olga, and I didn't want her to go into a landfill. The other thing that happened was when I go to Valentine's Day parties, and especially when you go to work events, you know, if you go to weddings and stuff, it seems like all the cups, all of the little placeholders, and all of the bowls, these are purchased at like the craft store for like $1 nothing. And it seems like after you have a Valentine's Day party, they just get tossed in the trash. It's like we just sweep the table right into the trash bin. So I inherited a squishmallow, and I like her. She's been mine for about 3 years, and I pull her out every Valentine's Day. So just like how Valentine's Day threw up on the lobby, you know, these are the things that come about from buying new. Now, in the same vein as Valentine's Day, I actually, I talked in the vintage video last week, I talked about going to like antique malls and things like that. You know, there's ways you can decorate, you know, if, you know, plushies, you know, again, one of the things that end up, you know, being bought new, and I know this is about buying new, the cactus I bought new. You know, the squishmallow and the bowl I kind of inherited. But when you buy new, the same thing happens. You know, it's like at Valentine's Day, you want to show someone your love, but you don't need to show it with something that doesn't biodegrade, that becomes a kitschy thing that you're not really going to use. Now, if it is a plush that you really love, I pull out these plushies every Valentine's Day and they're my decorations. And to be honest, I'm going to have to use them as my Valentine's Day decorations for a very long time. You know, when you think about it, okay, in 30 years, is this going to be treated like the next Beanie Baby, right? If someone handed you a Beanie Baby for you know, you'd be like, oh, gee, thanks, this is so outdated, right? And we'll talk about this some more in the toys video. Now I'm going to have to do a toys video. It's going to be interesting. It's amazing how all these subjects branch out. But Valentine's Day, greeting card holiday, you get given a plush, and what if it's a love monkey? What if you really don't know what to do with it? What if it's really one-time use, and the next day it's like, okay, I have to pack this away for 365 days until the next Valentine's Day, and hopefully it's still cool enough to hang, you know, to put out like a decoration. But that's the consideration when you think about when you buy any of these things. What's going to be its value in 30 years? What happens is, the other thing that gets consideration is, you know, Valentine's Day, don't buy it if you don't feel like it's going to have a use, you know? If it's not, you know, if it's a 5-foot Love Llama and you don't need it, don't buy it. I've actually kept, when I was at the antique mall, I saw a vintage Valentine's Day box of chocolates, like the heart-shaped box. Of course, the chocolates were gone, but that box was from like the 60s. It had a velvet top. That's what sticks around for 50 years past Valentine's Day. And, and it's funny, I use that as decorations too. I have some beautiful, they're cardboard, but I have some beautiful Godiva boxes from heart-shaped chocolates that I keep and I pull back out every year. So it's not to be weird about it. It's just saying, okay, if I like the box, I can buy it, but you reuse the box. Don't just sweep the table and throw it in the trash. If it's a plushie, make it one that you're really gonna utilize, that you're gonna put out, that you can use it as a decoration, or at least something that you're gonna cherish for a very long time. Now, the last thing that you just want to think about, and again, of course, call me out as a hypocrite. I have a Squishmallow. I have a new Squishmallow, right? And when you look at him, you're like, oh, well, he's brand new. Let me show you what this will look like in 30 years. So bear with me just 1 second. Hold on. Just to put this into perspective. Another trend. Okay, so Squishmallows are the plushie trend of the 2020s. This is a puffkin. A puffkin is from the 1990s, and I know because it says on the tag, 1994. I went to high school in the 90s, and I liked the X-Files, and I bought a puffkin, a little one, that has a little keychain on it. So this is the original puffkin from 1994, and his name is Roswell. Roswell hung from my rear view mirror in my car for 6 years. So he's all faded because of the sun, but he is an original 1994. And yes, he looks beat up. Okay, this guy is 30 years old, right? And he looks all beat up, and you think, oh, okay, that's, this is a sign that plushies, after a certain amount of time, they'll biodegrade, they'll go back into the earth, because they can't look like that without some, degradation, right? This is a medium-sized puffkin that I got off eBay, also made in 94. It's not a reproduction. Made the same year. Does he not look brand new? And 30 years old. These plushies will be around a very long time. So if you decide to collect all of them, if you decide to get the Love Monkey, the Love Llama, the Love Octopi for Valentine's Day, let's think about how long we want to have them, because they will be around a long time. We need to explain to our children's children, why they might not have gas to fuel heat, but we wore the gas, as a garment in the 2020s, or we, created things like this that, for kitschy or, cutesy reasons. So again, it's not to be gloom and doom. It's not to shame anyone. I have shown you a bunch of stuff. Love llamas and love octopi and Swatch watches and things I have bought new, So again, we've taken a walk on the modern side. There are things you buy new. Please feel free to judge me. Please feel free to judge yourself. And because there is a lot of guilt that comes along with it. You're like, oh gosh, why do I invest in this? Why do I, why don't I just live in a wooden world? Again, it doesn't mean that you can't take up space. It just means think about it. Do you want 100 of them? Do you have to have every single one in the collection? Or do you just want the ones that you like? Do you display the ones that you like? Will you display them 30 years later? Yeah, apparently I do. So no shame in that. But then as you come up on things like Valentine's Day, buy flowers. Buy chocolates, from your local Whole Foods store where you can just put them into a wax bag. Do things that, get the chocolates in the paper boxes, small boxes. Don't do the 20-foot love monkey, if you feel like, okay, that's not something that I'm going to love and cherish for 30 years, or, at least be able to, not keep out of a landfill. So this is how you buy new, or at least how I buy new. Please tell me what you think. If you think any of these are the ways that we want to go, if I'm leaving something out, or or if we should just avoid it altogether. Please let me know if I should be ashamed of myself and not buying any of it. But it's hard, it's very hard. But I thank you so much for joining me. I am going to be producing these. This video went longer than normal. Normally it's going to keep it at about 30 minutes. But I hope everyone has a good Valentine's Day, not too much guilt, get small plushies, if none at all. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.